So I'm going to walk you through what our data set looks like, and I'll do a separate video for each hypothesis. This first video is just going to provide you the background of what exactly we did, because I know for many people they're unsure how do we measure stuff in psychology. Now we have a lot of psych majors, but we also have a lot of majors outside of psychology, and then we do have some psych majors who haven't taken research methods or experimental courses. So some of this probably seems very new to you. What you see on the screen right now is our data set. It is in SPSS, which is the statistical package that we use in the social sciences. But first, let's look and see, how did I get this into the data set? And that is through the Qualtrics survey that you use. So Qualtrics is a great way for us to collect information, and it automatically downloads into different formats such as Excel or SPSS. So if you'll remember what your survey looked like, let's check out our survey. You'll remember that you first had an informed consent. This is very typical if you remember our ethics information that we talked about earlier in Module 1. So this just gave you an idea of what you were doing. It also provided you confidence that this information wouldn't be shared, and in fact, even though you entered your IN number, I have since removed it from the data set, so you can't connect back anybody's information to a particular person. So we have what are called demographic information, such as age, gender, level, if you're graduating, if you have plans after graduation, how many hours you are taking, how many classes you're taking, how many hours you work outside of school, and your relationship status and exercise. After that, you started through the different measures that were related to stress and coping. This first one, the life orientation test, was related to optimism. Next, we had a short one on the coping humor scale. Then we had a longer one on ways of coping. I'm going to show you how this is broken down into 8 different subscales. So all of these different items were grouped based on ones that were similar and indicative of different types of coping. So this one was pretty long. Then we had a measure on personality. Now I actually didn't run any analysis on this. If this is something you'd like to do for extra credit, you can email me because I need to run the syntax on it to break it into the 5 different scales. If you know anything about personality, if you've taken a class related to this, then you know that the Big 5 scale, that's OCEAN, so it's openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. And the reason I put this in is we know that there is some genetic basis for how people cope and how they deal with stress, and personality, we believe, is largely genetically based. There are definitely some environmental influences, but this is a good thing that you could use if you're sort of looking at the core of who people are and how that might impact how they cope and how they deal with stress. Then we had the undergraduate stress questionnaire. Now this is a checklist that includes both major life events as well as daily hassles that the typical undergraduate goes through. Then we had a physical symptom checklist, so we could see what kind of health problems people are having and how much it's bothering them. And then finally we had the perceived stress questionnaire. So a lot of you spoke about in your health profiles correctly that you didn't really realize how stressed you were until you took these measures. And so that is a good indication of how, when you went through the undergraduate stress questionnaire, you might have realized that you had a lot of stressors, but you don't feel that stressed, which is great, and it's something that is quite typical. If we always, all the time, kept at the forefront how much we're going through, that would be really maladaptive and lead to poor mental health. So for many of us, you are used to juggling lots of things, but maybe not perceiving all that you're accomplishing. So this is what our Qualtrics survey looked like, and let's go back to SPSS. So in SPSS, you have a data view and a variable view. So right now you see the data view, and it shows, so for example, this is one person who was 21, who is a male, and it goes all the way across for what their answers were. The variable view, if you click there, it helps you to see what these things meant. So for example, how did I know that 2 meant male? it will have the name of the variable, the type of the variable, a description of it, and then the values over here. Oh, looks like I was wrong. 2 means female. So if you click over on the right little square right here, then that can tell you what these mean. If we look right here, we could see that these are the categories for the different classes. Okay, so that gives you a basic background. Now I want to show you what is called syntax. Now often in class what you learn is how to use the drop-down menus to run analyses. So you click here, click on descriptive statistics, click on frequency, then you have a pop-up window that comes up. You put in the variables you're interested in learning about. So these would be demographic ones. Click on statistics. Then you could click mean, median, and mode, standard deviation, continue, and then typically you press OK, but what I do in my lab and for my research is I press paste. So if you press paste, I'm going to press cancel just because I don't want this in my syntax, but if you press paste, it's going to go into a syntax window. Why syntax is so helpful is it makes it super easy then to replicate any kind of analyses that you're doing.